It's part of many families' daily routine, sitting down and watching the news on one. But with scenes like those coming from the massacre in Colorado, should we be shielding some stories from our kids? Well, here to share his advice is Bruce Pilbrow, Chief Executive of The Parenting Place. Bruce, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.
This is a question which we as a family have discussed. At what level do we expose our youngsters and inform them, or try and shield them from the realities? Is there an answer?
Yeah, I guess for me it's how much the kids take in as well. I asked a couple of questions of some staff yesterday. Did their kids recognise the event? And it went over their head. But I guess what makes this one a little bit trickier is actually, if you look at Colorado, for example, it's Batman. And Batman's a story that most families would be into. And so that does bring a bit more reality back to the home. So you have to be aware that some of that stuff does get through. And of course, our reaction as parents to the story gets through to the kids as well. So we need to be aware of that.
That's why you have to talk to them almost on their level in that situation.
Correct.
We find that one of them is very inquisitive about what's going on and why is this happening, and we will try and explain it to him. The others aren't so interested, so we don't even worry about it with them.
And that's right.
Is that dangerous, though, allowing those images just to sort of float past them, or their lack of interest means that they're not taking them in?
I think as a parent you still have control of the media. I mean, you still can turn the TV off. And I think with kids you need to let them experience as much as they're prepared to experience with. Like, if kids ask you questions, answer the question, don't over-answer it. Don't tell them things they don't need to know. But also be open as a parent to listen to the questions and let them process, let them go through the fears. And remember that we as adults are the filters of the information to our children. So it's up to us to appropriately deal with it and talk to our kids through the information.
Because TV is such a visual medium, isn't it? So there are images which they're going to see which will maybe grab their attention, and suddenly you might be in a situation whereby you just don't want to have to explain that this person's gone into this home and done this to this family, let's say, where they might start taking that fear on board if they can relate it to their own lives.
And so I always like to think of statistics. I know John gave you one last week, and my one is, I was thinking about air travel, you know, crashing in an airplane. You have to fly 26,000 consecutive days for the odds to catch up, right? So as the parents, we need to remind our kids that media makes it very immediate and it makes it very here and now, and so it feels like it happens all the time, but the reality is it doesn't. And whilst these sad things are very, very sad, we need to keep the perspective for our children and realise that, you know, they're actually quite safe.
Yeah, I mean, I find that often it'll be a case of, look, guys, this is happening thousands of miles away. Syria, it's a different type of country. That sort of situation can't happen here. America, well, you know, they're all allowed guns and we don't allow that here. So don't worry. But as you say, when it's on our own doorstep, then we have to suddenly
Well, a good example would be the Christchurch earthquake. So that was so real to so many New Zealanders, and so many kids really felt that fear. So it's important that you are open as a parent, around the dinner table or wherever, just to have the conversation, but at their level. Don't over-dramatise it. Keep it, you know, at their level. And I think let them, I guess, answer their own questions through gentle prompting as a parent for them to get solutions.
OK, that's fascinating, Bruce. Thank you very much. I wouldn't mind getting you guys back to talk about the fact about this Batman shooting, the fact there was even a 6-year-old in the theatre. It's another subject for another day.
Story, isn't it?
But we'll talk about that at some stage as well. Anyway, Bruce, thank you very much for your advice.
Thank you.
Bruce Pilbrow from The Parenting Place.
I love that comment about not over-explaining. My tendency is to over-explain a question that a child asks, but also that power of listening, that often if you let them ask the question and don't be afraid of whatever that question is, they'll often come up with an answer of their own. So great advice. I can even put it into practice.